is up, everybody? Welcome back to the recap. I am your host, El Comandante. And today we're breaking down the Elimination Chamber 2026, coming to you live from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. First time WWE has actually ran a televised event in that arena, and I think it's 32 years now. That was the last time, I think, was SummerSlam. I think I have it written down here, 1994. So yeah, Chicago showed up, and WWE, I feel, put on a great show. This was the final premium live event before WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas. And we walked out of it with most of the card locked in. Of course, Seth Rollins is back, AJ Lee's champion, and the RKO is still the most devastating move in professional wrestling. Let's get into it. Kicking things off was the Women's Elimination Chamber match. Um, Match that absolutely delivered, and honestly, my match of the night. Women's Elimination Chamber, six entrants: Rhea Ripley, Tiffany Stratton, Kiana James, Alexa Bliss, Raquel Rodriguez, and Asuka. Asuka missed it, Alexa Bliss, because of course they got that little feud going on. That opened the door for Kiana James to eliminate Alexa Bliss, which was good on Kiana James, actually. She was a shock qualifier on SmackDown a few weeks ago, and she more than held her own in this match, making her a more solidified talent now. Raquel was a human wrecking ball in this thing. She looked like a complete monster. And Rhea did something absolutely insane. She climbed up the top of a chamber pod and hit a flipping senton from a high up onto Raquel. It was a car crash, but in the best possible way. Tiffany Stratton capitalized and eliminated Raquel. Then it came down to Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton, two main eventers that we've seen time and time again hold that title. Rhea Ripley hit the riptide, closed it out. Stratton was the runner-up. That, to me, was the right call because she's just coming back. She still wants to look like a main event talent throughout, but losing to Rhea is not a loss that you have to apologize for. So Rhea Ripley, she's going on to WrestleMania to face Jade Cargill, who was watching up from the suite that they had reserved up there. That's a fresh pairing. I'm actually very excited to see these two physically dominant women that we've never had wrestle each other before at that level at WrestleMania. It's going to be a very interesting WrestleMania match for sure. So the Women's Chamber delivered. After that, we had AJ Lee beating Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Women's Championship, her first title in 11 years. And this one was special. And I don't use that word very lightly. AJ Lee in Chicago, of course, where she resides and where CM Punk, her husband, is from. She wins her first match in 11 years. The crowd lost their minds, and I don't blame them. This was a wonderful, even though she's from New Jersey, this was still a wonderful homecoming for her and a great crowning moment for her. Here's what made this match feel more than just a typical feel-good moment. The booking was actually really smart. Jessica Carr was our referee, and if you've been following along, Becky Lynch has always had a public issue with Jessica Carr, calling her crooked, blaming her for her past losses, fast counts, you name it, she did. So she already came into this match already mad that she had to have Jessica Carr as a referee. But during the match, Becky Lynch removed the turnbuckle pad, and as Jessica Carr went to go replace it, Becky Lynch shoved AJ Lee into Jessica Carr, accidentally knocking her in the head. She went down. AJ locked in the Black Widow, and of course, Lynch was tapping, but nobody saw it. Then, once Jessica Carr recovered, she put herself between Becky Lynch and the exposed turnbuckle, and Becky was about to hit AJ Lee with it again. But at the end of the day, it was her own undoing because she ended up getting shoved into it herself, and then AJ Lee locked in the Black Widow one more time, and that's where the match ended. But the storytelling here doesn't end. It's sharp because Becky Lynch now has a completely believable excuse to demand a rematch. She'll blame the referee. She'll say that she cost her the match, which can be argued. I mean, it really can. It's not too far-fetched. And she'll say that she deserves a WrestleMania match, and that's going to be the match for Mania. It's going to be Becky Lynch and AJ Lee for the title, and it's probably going to be a gimmick rematch. It might be like a last woman standing, no DQ, false count anywhere, 2 out of 3. Iron Woman match would be a nice surprise, but again, whatever it is, I definitely want to see it. I'm sure you guys do too. After that, we had our co-main event. I feel like I'm old school pay-per-view. Premium live event, PLE, flew by. You had CM Punk versus Finn Balor. CM Punk obviously retained. Big hype moment, though, was the entrance. They're at the United Center, which is home of the Chicago Bulls. The serious intro played by the Alan Parsons Project, which those those older generation folks like myself do remember this was what the Bulls used during their 90s championship runs. He even got his own intro using the original man himself to introduce him, giving him the whole like Jordan-esque intro, which was great. The whole crowd lost their minds. It was amazing. It was a great moment. Punk just stood there taking it all in backstage, and then Cult of Personality hit in. Obviously, the whole crowd singing it at the top of their lungs. This just made it feel like such a huge homecoming for CM Punk. I think Michael Cole on commentary said it was actually Punk's first WWE match in Chicago in 13 years. And you could tell they wanted it, and it was electric. So again, that was an amazing intro. That was just the beginning. Finn Balor came out, of course. Of course, Finn Balor coming out to his OG music. I love it so much. I love that intro song of his. But again, it goes overshadowed by Punk. Very telling that Punk was going to walk away with the title here. I think there would have been riots in Chicago had Punk not won. Although I wouldn't have been mad at Finn Balor winning, but that is what it is. The match against Finn Balor, it was very physical, methodical. Balor, in my opinion, very underrated. I feel he's quietly leveling up in 2026. He's building to something bigger. We're obviously going to see him leave the Judgment Day. He had the Judgment Day stay behind on this one. And just very methodically, he worked on CM Punk's ribs the whole match, setting up the coup de grace and almost got a 3 count. But of course, Punk locked in the Anaconda Vice. Balor escaped. Second coup de grace. Punk countered with the sharpshooter, which was actually really, really cool to see. Then Balor gets on the ropes. Punk hits the GTS. Balor rolls out of the ring. Just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Very well done. The crowd was into it. Of course, at the end of the day, Finn Balor drags him back into the ring, gets the pin. I'm sorry, CM Punk drags Finn Balor back into the ring, gets the win. Post match, you had Finn Balor shove Punk, but then offer a handshake, kind of like that frustration, but still respect because it was a great match. CM Punk looked great in this match. I know we kind of rag on him a little bit about his stamina and his ability. I think he's gotten a lot better, a lot cleaner. And it was overall was a great match in my opinion. It was a good match. Of course, the crowd just heightened it even more. He offered the handshake. CM Punk took the handshake, and then AJ Lee ran out, and they just celebrated together with the crowd. It was a great ending to that chapter. Punk going to WrestleMania, face Roman Reigns, and then Balor walks away looking like a credible main event talent still, which I'm hoping WWE does something with him because he's long overdue. I hate that his title run was so short because of a shoulder injury. Of course, he dislocated it, popped it back in. Y'all remember that match. I just wish he gets that next opportunity again so that he can be the champion we know he can be. Right before the main event, we got the mystery crate reveal. Now, this came with a lot of mixed review. And I remember that this thing was traveling between Raw and SmackDown for weeks. A big box labeled "Do Not Open until 2/28/26." And speculation, everyone was tying it to Seth Rollins. A lot of people were tying it to Chris Jericho wanting to debut. And I think that is the expectation was that it was going to be something like that. Now, was it them? No. Outcomes, Danhausen. I enjoyed this, and I'll tell you why. Danhausen, for those who don't know who he he is a comedic act, but he is still a good wrestler. But his whole shtick is very like Elvira-esque, taking just very comedic. The face paint, the song, it's very great, it's just funny. And I love Danhausen very much. I followed him before. So unfortunately, he wasn't accepted very well. I think you could hear audible boos throughout the arena. People online were very upset, saying it was just a waste. But again, I will say this separated those who are WWE fans and those who are pro wrestling fans. Because those who are pro wrestling fans know who Danhausen is and know what we're going to get from Danhausen. And this was Danhausen to a T. The cheap generic popping pyro, the very minimal pyro, the dance number, the teeth to Michael Cole, You Are Cursed. I love it. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. It made me chuckle. It gave me a little big old smile when I heard in the very beginning when the coffin opened and I just heard "You Are Cursed." I screamed out Danhausen because I loved it. And again, could this have been handled better? Probably. It probably could have been booked a little bit better. But again, let's not forget his debut in AEW. He didn't even have like an official debut. He was during an Adam Cole match. Adam Cole opened up the ring apron, grabbed a chair, pulled it out, but he dragged out Danhausen holding onto it too. Danhausen threatened to curse him and just kind of walked off. That was his debut for AEW, and he had a great career with AEW. Now he's here at WWE. He got a whole, dance number. It was great. He had dancers. He had the cheap little pyro. It was perfect. But again, I understand. Not everyone may know who he is. Look him up. Look up YouTube. Look up TikTok. Whatever. You look him up, and you'll be very surprised as to how entertaining Danhausen can be. And I just feel that maybe the crowd didn't react to it as much because the expectation at the time was Jericho, Rollins, something bigger. But those of you that follow wrestling as much as we have know that sometimes that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be some big shock reveal like that, especially with something that's just there. I think me and Michael the other week ago joking about it. Why don't you be like another variation of the gobbledygooker or something? Because again, we remember we've been swerved before, so that's where I'm going to leave that at. But again, very nice, very evil. I love Danhausen, and I'm glad he's in WWE. After that was our main event, and this was convoluted. This was so busy. So let's get into it. We had Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and Logan Paul. The first half of the match was great. Evans opened up with Cody, and the two just had the crowd going early. Trick Williams came in, looked like he belonged at this level. He was actually handling the moment very well. Logan Paul was the sneaky story of the first half, low blowing at LA Knight, stealing a pin. Then he stole a pin on Trick Williams after Cody hit the crossroads on him, doing the villainous math in real time. And it was working. The crowd was booing him. He was eating it all up. It was working perfect. Then things got complicated. Security grabbed a masked man trying to climb the chamber. Adam Pearce unmasked him. Random decoy again, like we saw on SmackDown. Again, at this point, I was upset because I was like, don't tell me that just because Braun Breaker got hurt, Bronson Reed got hurt, now we're going to drop the Seth Rollins is coming at them as the masked man. And I was upset. I was like, dang, this is really how we're going to end this. They're just going to drop it and just wait till everyone gets better. I was like, oh, well. Meanwhile, while everyone was focused on that, the chamber door was still open and Trick Williams was being escorted out. He's being helped out. A second hooded figure slipped through the door. That's when the crowd started going crazy because we knew at that point he gave a kick to Logan Paul, curb stomped, stood there, peeled off the mask. Seth Rollins is back. Just like we thought, just like we hoped, and that did not disappoint. He stood there and stared Paul Heyman dead in the eyes. Paul Heyman sold that thing so well, and then walked throughout the crowd, didn't cut a promo, just gone. And that's perfect because we're going to save the promo for after. We'll see what happens on Raw. We'll see what happens with Seth and how that portrays and how that goes on. After that, Cody took advantage, pinned Logan Paul. Then Drew McIntyre, somehow, I don't know if there was a delay or timing was off, but that door stood open for a very long time. And it was long enough for us to say, here comes Drew McIntyre to interfere somehow, some way. Because the last two left were Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Drew McIntyre eventually makes his way from outside and hits Cody Rhodes with the championship title. Then Orton and Rhodes both fight McIntyre off together. Orton hits an RKO. McIntyre kind of stumbles into Cody. Cody hits the crossroads, but then immediately Randy Orton turned around and RKO'd Cody, took the win to everyone's surprise. Everyone was genuinely surprised because we all thought Cody was going to win this thing. And he wasn't the consensus pick, but I'm so happy as we're going to get Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. That's going to be such a great match. It's a great moment for Randy Orton. As much as I like Drew, I hope Randy gets number 15. That would be so great to see because Randy Orton, of course, we know is probably nearing the end of his, or not the end of his run, nearing his retirement, I should say. My only critique is that the finish had a lot going on. You had the Seth Rollins return, and then immediately within the same few minutes, you had the Seth Rollins return. You had the McIntyre run in, then the decoy mask, Logan Paul. It was just a lot of spinning plates, so to speak. But Randy Orton winning deserved a cleaner spotlight, I feel. But hey, win's a win, and that's the right destination, I feel. That's where we should be heading at, is Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. I just hope to God they don't make it a fatal four-way or something like that. I just hope it's a one-on-one. Let Randy have his moment, and that'll be that. So before I let you go, 3 quick things to wrap this up. We had our match of the night, Women's Elimination Chamber. Wasn't even close. Every entrant had a moment. The action was physical, well-paced. Ripley's pod dive was a highlight reel spot. Tiffany Stratton as a runner-up made the match feel like it had real stakes throughout. But if you only watch one thing from this show, watch that first match. It was awesome. They always say, if you can't go on last, you want to go on first because you set the tone, and those women definitely set the tone. Moment of the light for me was AJ Lee winning the Women's Intercontinental Championship in her, I guess you call it her hometown, right? Because she lives there now, in front of 19,000 people who just lost their minds. And it was one of those moments where you stop thinking about the structure and booking and you just feel it. You just feel the moment. And that's what wrestling is about at the end of the day. So I love it. That's how wrestling's supposed to make you feel. What to watch for this week, guys, on Raw? Seth Rollins is back. The Vision has to respond. Does Rollins cut his first promo? Does Heyman address it? And most importantly, where does Finn Balor land now that his championship program is over? I want to see if Judgment Day pulls him back in or if he carves out his own direction. I'm hoping it's the latter. On SmackDown, the big one here is Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Championship. It was booked immediately after the Chamber by Nick Aldis, so that match is going to tell us what we need to know about Mania. Is Cody gonna win the title and face Randy at WrestleMania, or is he gonna lose to some kind of shenanigans and then we have a triple threat with Orton, or maybe a separate program? I genuinely don't know at this point, but whatever happens on Friday is going to set the table for Las Vegas. So definitely something to watch out for. And that's it. That's what's going to do it here for the recap. WrestleMania season is officially, now we're on the fast track. It is now, that's the next stop, is WrestleMania. 2 nights, which they announced the first hour of each night is going to be aired on ESPN, which is interesting. But it'd be curious to see how that goes and how that's received. They're kind of treating it like UFC a little bit. So I ain't mad at that. Let's see how it goes. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you tell us in the comments down below, what was your moment of the night? What was your match of the night? Do you know who Danhausen is? And if you don't, you will be cursed. But again, I have been D El Comandante. This has been the recap. We'll talk to you later.